Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to talk about the Warhammer 3 campaign. You see, even I am not blind to the fact that there are some glaring issues, and we need to talk about it, mainly just so we can be loud enough for Creative Assembly to take notice, because there's some things which just seem to be ignored completely when stuff gets addressed by them in forum posts. I'm venting my frustrations here because I want this game to succeed. I'm a lifelong Warhammer fan and Total War fan, and I don't know what the hell is happening right now. There's an old phrase saying the silence is deafening, and yes, they are trying to be vocal. They have posted just yesterday with, well, a blog which gave us little to no information. In fact, it just kind of made the community a little bit angrier in most cases. But at this point, it's more comparable to that of just basic silence. So let's just talk about what things can be done just to fix the campaign. Because the fact is, the campaign is a major issue for players at the moment, and I know why. It's very simple. Why? So yes, there's a lot of issues when it comes to bugs and so on, but I'm not going to talk about the bugs because I'm imagining that Creative Assembly at least are aware of them. Here's hoping, knock on wood. But the main issue is the campaign itself. The Warhammer 3 main campaign for the Realms of Chaos. As, look, yes, narrative is cool, but how did they make it worse than the Eye of the Vortex? Now, many of you who watch this channel know that I like narrative. That's perfectly fine. I think that Warhammer 3 needed some narrative, but you can't just force it in such a way where you can basically not ignore it too much. So how the campaign works is that you start with your fresh new faction, and you start just destroying stuff and doing all the usual Total War stuff for at least 30 turns or so. Then the narrative kicks in. First you'll have Urson roaring, and then a few turns later you'll have rifts opening up everywhere, which start to cause the problem in Game 3. Unlike the Warhammer 2 Eye of the Vortex campaign, where it is a race but you can work against your enemies, there's no way to actually do so. In fact, you're forced into a race where you need to actively take part unless you want the campaign to end. You have to grab 4 Demon Souls, and you can do this pretty much once every time the rifts open up, and that's perfectly fine. You can try and ignore it sometimes, but if you're playing in certain difficulties, or if the AI is just working that well, they can take all the souls, and then they can just easily take the win, and your campaign ends, which is ridiculous. So there is a way to combat this, obviously, which is taking out all the other playable factions so they can't get the Demon Souls, but that's a bit frustrating because that means that you have to focus on going to different parts of the world map very early on. You don't want to do that anyway. You want to build up with a normal Total War experience. Not everyone can micromanage building up their faction locations and fighting other minor factions whilst also taking out, what, 11 other playable Legendary Lords? Again, I like the narrative. I think it should be in-game because it's a decent story even for Warhammer standards. Keep in mind that Warhammer lore is usually quite, well, horrible, but there should be some things in place to just change some stuff around, and let's just talk about that right now. So just for a basic example here, you beat the game once, now you can unlock sandbox mode. You just have a little toggle when you start your campaign where you can decide, do I want to have the story or do I want to play as a sandbox traditional Total War game? Well, obviously Total War Warhammer traditional, not historical, but you know what I mean, and that is simple enough. I think a lot more players would be happier if we just had that function. Look, let's be realistic here. It's likely that we're not going to get the Immortal Empires anytime soon. It'll probably be a few more months than expected because, well, you know, everything's kind of going wrong at the moment. But, you know, just being able to have a sandbox function, I think will just be enough to tide people over. It depends on the player base, but I've seen it happen a lot. People don't want to play the same campaign over and over again, especially since there's not much difference. You're doing the same story over again with just 1 or 2 minor changes with a cinematic or so, just depending on the race that you play. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that I want a Total War game. I want Total War Warhammer. It's different to, say, for example, the historicals, but it's still a sandbox game. That's why a lot of people like the Immortal Empires so much, because you can just play and have fun. You're not forced to do a campaign. You're just playing Warhammer. You're playing Total War. If you go on to other narrative-based Total Wars, you know, the Eye of the Vortex for Warhammer 2 did it really well because you could actively work against your enemies, but you didn't have to force yourself directly in. And Three Kingdoms had the option that you could just follow the story if you wanted to, but you didn't have to follow the story, which I think was just freaking great. This is why I keep going back to Three Kingdoms. Another option is release the Steam Workshop. Now, hear me out. I know a lot of people thinking, wait, what are mods gonna do? But some modders have already figured out how to stop the campaign or just make the stuff a little bit better. I don't know why we don't have the Steam Workshop yet, and it looks like we're not gonna get it for a while, but mods do help out when it comes to certain issues. You shouldn't have to be worried, and this is directly to Creative Assembly, about bug fixes coming from the community. This happens with many different franchises. Mods project a longer longevity for the game. It's what happens. Right now, Total War Warhammer 3 is just bleeding viewers, yes. And this is something that kind of worries me as a fan of the series, not just the content creator, because look, it's getting close to Warhammer 2 numbers now, and this is Warhammer 2 numbers after 4.5 years. Not only that, but there are some unstable mods out there which can cause more and more game crashes. This becomes an issue when people put in mods from online sources rather than directly from a workshop. Look, I'm not saying that mods will fix everything, far from it, because there's some things that have to be fixed through internal code and so on, and that's stuff that only Creative Assembly can do. Though what I am saying is that mods can come in, bring some quality of life fixes, at least at the very least, while Creative Assembly can then turn their attentions to some other important matters, like say for example not being able to play in 4K mode, and the black screen issue, which I finally just had yesterday in the stream, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm recording this video, because it's frustrating. But if all else fails and they don't want to or can't bring out a sandbox mode for the Realm of Chaos map, or they don't want to or can't just now bring out the Steam Workshop, there are also some other things that they can do to the main campaign just to make it a little bit less soul-sucking. I know this from experience because I've played every campaign once at least, and now I'm just going up for the final achievements because we didn't have achievements at the beginning. I'm enjoying the game, don't get me wrong, this might sound like a lot of complaining, but I am enjoying the game. I am enjoying all the different factions. I just don't enjoy playing the campaign over and over again. The narrative, I mean here, of course, but here's some basic fixes that they can do. First, let's talk about the roar. Okay, so when you have the roar, it's a bit of a warning sign before the rifts start opening up, right? And that's perfectly fine. However, it's normally around, what, 4 turns to 10 turns before the rifts start opening up? That gives you no time to prepare. You need to actually have an army ready, especially with your legendary lord, and that can sometimes not be possible if you're fighting with other factions. It's something that just deviates from the whole Total War perspective. You're not fighting with factions, you're preparing the army to go somewhere else which has no actual change to the map, more or less. Don't get me wrong, if they want to keep it, it's fine. Just make the roar at least, the very least, 10 turns to 20 turns before the rift starts opening up. This gives you much more time, and it will allow you to play Total War more. Also, it's too early to have the rift starting at like turn 30 and so on. It's just ridiculous. Why would you have a decent army to go into the Chaos Realms at that point? Why would you even have a working economy? Sometimes even 2 proper working armies. More or less every time the rifts open up is around 32 to 40 turns. It does vary and all that, but it should be, say, 60 turns at the very minimum. That means that you won't have to finish the campaign by a turn 140, which is just bizarre. Let it have more breathing room. 60 turns in between each thing will allow you to breathe more. It'll allow the players to enjoy the game more. Now let's talk about the rifts themselves. There are too many. I believe 1 spawns per province, and now this might not seem like a bit of an issue early game, but becomes an issue later game. As rifts keep spawning, this can have problems towards the game, and this kind of affects performance as far as I've seen, but I'm more talking about just the playability of it, because, you know, it spreads corruption everywhere, it starts spawning enemy agents, it starts spawning enemy armies. It becomes an issue if you start empire building, which, you know, is so common in Total War, you'd think that they'd realize that that's a kind of main feature. There is no incentive for the campaign to expand because of the issues with rifts. Then you start having to have loads of armies inside your capitals or loads of agents inside your regions and so on, just to basically play babysitter. When they open, they can close it and then they can move on, but they have to stay near your territories pretty much all the time. I want to use those agents as heroes because that's what they are. They are heroes. I want to use my spellcasters to cast spells. I want to use my patriarchs to bring buffs into the battle and so on. It's kind of weird that they're just running around the campaign map just doing something that I never used to use them for in Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. That's 5 years of this series now. I used to use them in my armies because heroes were meant to be in armies. Now they're just running around like the old agents in the historical games, which, yeah, works fine, but there's no reason to have them out. It's just a drain on resources more than anything else. I'm building up buildings to increase their capacity just to have them babysit the regions, and that's no fun. That's no fun. Now, yes, the rifts are tied to the mechanic itself, but make them spawn much less. Not only just the 60 turn thing, like I said, with the whole spawning, but in general, say, instead of 1 per region, make it 1 every 2 regions, 1 every 3 regions. That way you don't have to keep babysitting all the time. For the final battle, that's fine. Make them spawn everywhere. It's the final battle. This is the big thing. But there shouldn't be that much chaos happening, even from a lore aspect. Funny enough, this does not happen in lore. Yes, portals do spawn, but they don't spawn everywhere all the time. Put it this way, and I was joking about this with some viewers in recent streams and even in my Discord, it's the case that if you want to beat the campaign, you can easily stay in just your starting province and finish the campaign like that, which, you know, isn't really Total War. Turtling up because the function there is so annoying to just deal with in some cases, or you can't deal with if you can't expand and all that, it becomes a bit of an issue, and nobody wants to turtle for a campaign, especially like 140 turns. You want to play, you want to expand, you want to deal with various different enemies. You don't want to just fight chaos, 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 and chaos. But now we can move on to the Chaos Realms itself. So, when you start getting the triggers for the campaign, you need to go into the Realms of Chaos and be able to get some Demon Souls. You need to go into 4 unique Chaos Realms: the Realm of Khorne, the Realm of Tzeentch, the Realm of Slaanesh, and the Realm of Nurgle. Now, each of them are very, very unique, and that's a really cool thing, because at least you have some variety, and they're all stylized to go under the lore of their specific god. But there are some issues here. You're actively competing with the other different playable factions, which is perfectly fine, because this is more or less what we had in the Eye of the Vortex, but the Eye of the Vortex was much better, like I said. But let's go into the specific realms. So in the Realm of Khorne, you go in, you basically just fight anything that's around there, get a bar sorted, and then go fight the Demon Prince. That's perfectly fine. It's easy, doable, there's no issues there. In the Realm of Slaanesh, you've got a few rings to travel through, where you'll have to fight some armies on the way down if you're unlucky, but the main deterrent there is the temptations of Slaanesh, where you can be tempted with some pretty good bonuses, sometimes some really good items, some very good followers, and just a lot of money to just leave and not be able to come back until the rifts open again. I think that stylized is done very, very well, and yeah, it's not bad at all. The Realm of Nurgle is when things start getting strange, as you kind of have to plan what you're going to do in there, as you'll start taking very heavy attrition, which is perfectly fine, but AI tends to take less than you do, which, yeah, is a little bit annoying, but you can still traverse it, not too bad. You can encamp, make sure that you're still getting some sort of regen, though sometimes it does bug out. That's an issue that I have noticed. It does bug out, and you'll still take attrition anyway. And since you have to fight your way through different enemies, and sometimes other playable factions which might be in the same area, because keep in mind, you're not the only person in these realms, this becomes a bit of an issue. And this is very obvious when you go into the Realm of Tzeentch, a puzzle-based realm, which, you know, is very lore-friendly, very infuriating for people like myself who hate puzzles, but hey, it works with the lore. It's very stylized. You need to go from portal to portal to try and find your way up to the impossible fortress. Now, the issue here is that the AI doesn't go through the same puzzle. Many of you would have already seen this, where the AI just works through, you know, going through all the different locations without no issues whatsoever. So while it could take you maybe 7 turns to go through all the portals, the AI knows exactly where to go. It might take you longer because you've gone through the wrong portal, or you didn't have enough icons up. Even though those armies are there for you to get those icons, sometimes you won't get the stuff that you need. It will be randomized. But the AI will just spawn and go there. I've had that myself, where I've been kicked out of the realm before because, well, the AI doesn't follow the same rules we do. The AI never does. So if they know exactly where to go through, that becomes a massive issue, especially if you're trying to get that soul, if that might be the last one that you need and so on. It's usually best to get it first because, you know, it's the most frustrating and you'll be in a much better position as the enemy armies will be a lot weaker, but it's still there, it's still a problem. So how can this be fixed? Now, the issue here is obviously this presents a bit of a problem because the realms themselves are tied directly to the campaign. You have to go through them and get the demon souls. The realms themselves are hard-coded and it becomes a massive issue here. The only thing I can say is maybe, and this has been suggested by a few players throughout the forums and so on, is softlock the demon souls, which I think is a pretty good idea. Okay, so there are 4 demon princes, 1 for each of the chaos gods, and for some reason they have multiple souls because, well, everyone can just go in there and take a soul. So how about this as a very rough example? Say you as the player playing as Khorne, and you go into the realm of Nurgle and beat the Nurgle demon prince. Well, that means that you have it and no one else can get it. This wouldn't change the core function of the campaign itself, it just means that the campaign would not end as quickly. If you want the other demon souls because another faction would have probably gotten it too, you'll have to go fight them, beat them down, possibly delete them, and then it could work in one of 2 ways. Let's use the example here. You're playing a Skarbrand and you've got the Nurgle demon soul, but Nekari has gotten the Tzeentchian one, so you go then to destroy Nekari. Then the soul can either then become part of your faction because you've defeated him, or it can go back into the realm of Tzeentch, which will then make you go into the realm of Tzeentch. But that means that the campaign can last longer, and either way works. That means that you're not fighting too much of a race. It means that the other factions will have to be aggressive too. This means that the portals can still keep summoning every 60 turns or so. I know it's like 30 turns at the moment, but I'm saying 60 would be better, and that means that you still have the threat of Be'lakor doing his thing, but you are allowing yourself to be able to deal with other stuff and also make the campaign last a lot longer, feel more like a traditional Total War. While we're at it, you do get some negative traits when you're in the specific realms of chaos, and they all present negatives, no positives. It should be some negatives and some positives to have more the feeling that you're getting a trait from being in the realm. So if you're getting a trait from, say, for example, the realm of Khorne, yes, have some public order issues and so on, but also make your troops hit harder melee, because that's what Khorne would do. Have your troops be faster with the realm of Slaanesh, generate more magic with the trait of Tzeentch, even maybe be a bit more defensive with the trait of Nurgle, but have some negatives which pair up with positives. Make it much more flavorful for the people, as obviously then it becomes a bit of an issue when you leave the realm and your character ends up in having to wait like a turn, 2 turns, sometimes more because it's RNG focused, just trying to get rid of that trait in a faction capital or a city with one of those buildings. And finally, we have the final battle, but not the way you'd think. So, when it comes to the final battle, you have to fight Be'lakor in the Forge of Souls, that's perfectly fine. This, you will need all 4 Demon Souls to actually do. But if, say, for example, another faction managed to get all 4 Demon Souls, you have a very small window to be able to beat them, because they can take 1 turn to spawn into the Forge, and then 1 turn to go and fight Be'lakor, and that's it. Game over. Which is kind of frustrating, as you can imagine, because if you've been playing for a long time, and there's no actual way to step in and deal with this, it's baffling. It's absolutely baffling. There should be an instant teleport function just to fight them off and make them lose a soul or something, because I don't know why people thought that this was a good idea when it was being made, because obviously this is so drastically different to how we could deal with the campaign with the Eye of the Vortex. So why was this stripped down to such a way? Why is there not a let me fight function just to stop them? You know, this is so important. Nobody wants to have their campaign ended because of the fact that just one faction can easily ride through all the Chaos Realms, get all the 4 souls, and be done with it. Nobody wants that. Nobody at all. So if we go back to the previous stuff where I said that the souls would be unique, and that's something which should be anyway, because you know, there's only 4 demon princes, why do they keep having multiple souls? I think that would solve the big issue with the campaign. Literally just that. Make the timing between the portal spawning a little bit longer. Make the portal spawn a little less, and make the souls unique. That would make the game far more enjoyable for people to play. We can tide ourselves over until when it comes to the time for mods to come out, or even just the Immortal Empires. I've been playing this game now for close to 400 hours, and I'm having fun, yes, but there are some glaring issues, and this is the glaring issue, barring obviously the bugs and so on, but hopefully they'll be able to fix that at some point. I'm venting some frustrations because I want this game to do well, and I'm worried about the future because, say, for example, the Chaos Dwarfs get added in as a DLC, then are they going to do the same campaign? That's kind of worrying because the ogres are something that I never expected to do with the same main game campaign. I expected them to have something different. So if new factions and so on are just going to be added in, are they going to be doing the same thing just for the sake of the roleplay sense? Because that shouldn't work like that. In all honesty, I don't think that they should be releasing DLC anytime soon because, well, there are some issues with the game. I think they need to fix the issues before anything else comes, because if more stuff gets added to something that's already kind of volatile or just not fun, people are going to get a lot more annoyed. I know there's people already thinking about the next DLC and all that, and I do that too. I'm excited for Chaos Dwarfs. I can't wait if we eventually get a Warriors of Chaos rework, or a Norska rework and all that. And I do want to talk about it on the channel. I do want to speculate and all that, because that's always cool. But we need these issues fixed. These issues should be a bit of a priority. Alongside other issues too, like 4K gaming, because I don't know what's going on there. That's what causes some frame rate issues and all that. And you know, a lot of us do have 4K monitors and it does cause issues, or should I just go out and buy a smaller monitor just for this game for some reason? I can't believe I'm saying this, but it almost feels like they should have just delayed it a little bit more, because it just looks like some of the patches are doing some more damage than good. Again, those who watch this channel know that I love this series, and this is a very important series for me because it's Warhammer Fantasy too. And believe me, I want this series to succeed, but it's just having a lot of glaring issues. But with all that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I imagine that some people are going to get mad at this and so on, but I'm just trying to find solutions. If Creative Assembly find those solutions useful, use them, please. I just want to have some fun and play Total War. That's the main purpose of this channel. It's to have fun and enjoy the game. But I don't want to be forced doing something over and over. It comes to the point where I'm just casually playing and then ending a campaign before someone else does, or just starting all over again, because I prefer the beginning of a campaign compared to later where I'm just drowning with chaos realms everywhere and demon souls and factions about to complete the campaign themselves. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.